Hi people, welcome to UK Jazz Dance. One of the key things I'm doing advanced UK Jazz Dance education, and from my own personal perspective, for me, basically it's on me talking about myself and my involvement in dance from three perspectives, which is emerging dance leader, mid-career, and established advanced dance leader. And this is me doing my notes at home because I want to help the next generation of dancers understand what it takes to be one, a professional UK jazz dancer, and that's hard, and what it takes to be a mainstream dancer. Yeah. And it's important for people to understand we go through similar roads and different roads. Why am I sharing this information? Because a beautiful situation has arisen. Because remember, one thing about the dance world is a world where dancers come into it from a vocational perspective, and commercial dance really changed it. People like Michael Jackson changed the world of dancing, because what happened, vernacular jazz dance actually changed it, because you didn't have to be a qualified dancer to be a tap dancer. Do you understand? And then what you have to understand in the sense of deployment game, you have to understand the industry, what the industry did. The industry started to bring these regulations. Unless you'd gone to ballet school, all that type of thing, you couldn't go and do stage jazz, which was a lot of nonsense, but that's what came in. But then what happened, the underground jazz dancing changed it. The hip-hop, the level of hip-hop dancers, the UK jazz dancers changed it. The house dancers changed it. That you don't have to go college, mate. This is the reality. It brought in a product, which is our dances. And I want to share with individuals that I was an individual who wanted to push the boundaries of UK jazz dance from '86. But a film called Absolute Beginners killed it. Killed any prestige that we could have. We nurtured it from 75 to 86, 7 days a week. We practiced. And when I tell you there were some amazing dancers, there was amazing dancers. And how we develop dance, people need to understand. Everybody, everybody who's involved in underground and mainstream dance were going to the same club. That's how we got to learn about dance. Oh, I want to learn that spin. What do you do? I do ballet, do tap. Or what you doing? I'm going African dance. What you doing? I'm doing ballroom, What can ballroom teach you? Let's go, man. You learn something. So what happened was the UK jazz dance scene was the most explorative, improvisational, artistic, athletic scene, fusion scene, just like Lindy Hop. Lindy Hop is highest level of jazz, you know what I'm saying? Besides swing jazz, tap and all that sort of thing, like Nicholas Brothers, do you understand? But they were fusing dance styles together. And that's what happened with UK jazz dance, you know what I'm saying? So I wanted to share with people didn't know that dancers had studios in their own home. And it started from the home and it ended up in the home. And for me, that's where I nurtured things. What it takes to be a professional dancer, you'll have to have really seriously have Olympian fitness. And you have to have dedication. Because 86, Manchester was recognised, 78, 86, Manchester was the #1 avant-garde experimental city in the whole of the country. People need to understand that came back, that all happened, that type of thinking started from a long time ago, from the Industrial Revolution. Do you understand? Manchester, because of its interest in industry and always pushing the boundaries of its knowledge, experimenting, bringing new things, that was influenced by, that came into be a sort of focus or a practice for people wanting to dance. So Manchester, people need to understand, was very experimental, long time before jazz came in. That's what people need to understand. And jazz walked alongside modernism, and Manchester was the #1 modern city. Without Manchester, there'd be no jazz. Without Liverpool, there'd be no jazz. These were the #1 experimental cities happening in general. And what happened was, jazz was modern music, and modernism was spread by us. Modern dancing, modern clubs, modern architecture, modern suburbs, modern PE, modern recreation, modern physical fitness was all coming from Manchester. And Manchester was a city that was involved in self-care. Amazingly, those the rich were involved in self-care. People don't understand about the nights. For a night to do what they had, they were into extreme fitness because they knew that they could not stay, there could never be nights or go to war. So you have to understand, fitness was huge. Dancing was huge. Keeping fit was huge in the society at large in the UK, particularly to do with royalty, nights, etc. You had to keep yourself fit. Same what happened UK jazz dance, you had to be Olympian fitness. And what happened was, my scene was lost in 86, the underground scene, avant-garde scene, and I had to keep it alive myself. Because what happened, it was lost around the country. I kept up the styles in my home because I bought the music. and I knew that I wanted to be an ambassador of my own art form, talking about improvisation. And I started talking improvisation from 81. A lot of people talk about improvisation now. We used to have them talks from a long time ago. Why? Because I was what happened, I was a person studying engineering. I wanted to be an RAF pilot. Part of being an RAF pilot, I was studying to be an aerial engineer. You had to learn about the plane, the parts, you learn about the history. And what happened, it relates to art, it relates to experimenting, was one of the biggest things, how aviation came about. Do you know what I'm saying? Anything to do engineering, people had labs. So I had a dance lab. So I'm giving people an understanding that what happened was the dancers had very much inquiry minds, imaginative minds, and creative minds. And what happened, the dancers explored a wide range of different arts, different activities to develop their own creative stimuluses, to create their own creativity when they're going about the dance. Where we got the most creative stimulus would be definitely from the records. We grew up with hearing the compositional elements of the records, call and answer, improvisation of the bass, improvisation of the keyboard, sax. That grew up was in the 0 to 5 years. We listened to jazz and danced to jazz. So what happened, one of the key things that came up, when you started to collect your albums, what happened was we were listening to the music, dancing to it and reading about it and looking at the art on the front of it. Because that was, in the 50s, music albums were connoisseur collecting albums. Do you know what I'm saying? You collected it because the film, the photographs at the front reflected the music inside. They had some write-up by an individual journalist, talked about what the musicians were doing, how they were doing it, changing, recording. All these things is how I became an expert in understanding jazz, because I had thousands of records and I read the back of records 24/7. We had a library. Once you had a library, 50s music, 60s, on the back of them albums is guaranteed text for you to read about. Do you understand? And I had thousands of albums. And unfortunately in 91, I had a robbery and thousands of albums were taken. But I read on the back of it, so I had knowledge what Coltrane was doing, had knowledge what Miles was doing, had knowledge what Charlie Parker was doing, had knowledge what Lester Young was doing, I had knowledge what Billie Holiday was doing, I had knowledge what Fitzgerald was doing, and we were learning what the musicians had gone through and dancers had gone through. There wasn't books on black dance. So what happened was the knowledge base to push the boundaries of learning came from the music, because we had access to the albums. Later on, I started to learn about dance, what black dancers did as an individual. But what happened was I was already involved in improvisational dance all my life. I've been involved in improvising to dance. That's how my parents brought me into the world. There was no set moves. And people can't understand the significance of me being a live improvisational expert. From 86, I took up that mantle, because what happened was Western society had its improvisational dance, and what happened, and they celebrated it, but our African diaspora dance, they dissed it and debased it, and that was unacceptable to me, because I was a person who's politicised, who's very proud of his culture, taught to be proud of his creativity, his cultural, cross-cultural awareness. Just be proud of my talents, what I do as an individual, and learn to articulate it, to explain it to others. Has been one of the key things to do with my legacy, and that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm showing you there's a lot of things behind the scenes. So there's more to UK jazz dance than dance. And if anybody knows about dance education, dance is a PhD subject. That's all you need to know. It's a subject you can be studied, and most people don't study it. I'm an individual recognized the commercial industry guys were not doing right by the dance. I've been up and down to some of the debates, the first debate that ever took place. I've been to events that took place that were basically miseducating the public on an international scale. And I know dancers have gone around the world teaching. It's not their fault. They came from a commercialized world perspective, which was about dance for money, as an individual, get a routine done and whatever. But what happened historically, commercial dances bastardized the cultures of the dance that they do and changed it completely, because people don't get a dance education alongside a commercial dancing. Do you understand? Once you go into commercial dance, it's a whole different world. Do you understand? And what happened, the choreographers are always bastardizing the culture. They don't have an interest in its background or whatever, just want to know, can we use it, abuse it? And generally what happens is that because they want to market to a commercial minded individuals, what they usually water down what the dance is. And that's what's happening around the world at the moment in time. I was the individual who wanted to keep the authenticity of my dancing alive, and I have done that. And I wasn't interested in the commercial world because I got advice. I had coaches that told me don't get in the commercial world because what it does, that stops creativity, it stifles creativity. And when you look around, by the time you look around 10 years, you realize that you've lost the momentum of the avant-garde will be lost. Do you understand? So wanting to have integrity, wanting to push the boundaries of your mind is not involved in commercial industry music. Do you understand? Right? That's what you think about beat music and jazz. What was happening at the same time in the 60s, jazz was pushing the boundaries of learning, thinking, and development, and always has done. Do you understand? Anyway, Blue K Jazz, that's out. Take it easy.